You are now listening to Out of the Blank.
And this is a special podcast with my badass Aunt Kathy. Is that right to say badass? Yeah?
I guess.
Yeah, I mean, you got so many talents.
I mean, I'm not really, but...
I'd say, badass ping pong player, considering what happened Christmas Eve, where I almost won. But, you have a lot of talents. You're very musically inclined, and you're also a very talented painter. But I wanted to get into more, what would you say you would do professionally, I guess, as a career job?
What, between the art and the music?
Yeah.
They're probably both the same. And I don't really see myself as a professional anything because I'm always learning and I'm self-taught, so.
You're just talented in all sorts, I would say.
I enjoy what I do and I'm always striving to do everything better. And
I think that's what everybody's really trying to look for, is like a kind of an inner peace when it comes to just finding something to do with life, really, because I know I'm going to school just because it's if someone asks me, hey, what are you doing with your life? Like, do you have a career set out? Do you have what you want to do? I don't really know what I want to do with my life. I might want to travel at one point. I might want to do, find certain outlets for myself. Like podcasting really is, it's difficult, and at the same time, it's a lot of fun, mostly because when I interview with people, or it's really just a conversation between me and you. So it's not like, yeah, there's going to be people listening, but it's between everything that I want to know about you is what I'm asking, and everything that I might think someone else might find interesting. Like, just knowing you from as being a child, you've been around my whole life. I have certain memories of you from when I was a little kid. You've watched me all the time.
Yep.
Your kids, I've seen them grow up, and it's crazy to see them now, because I'm like, whatever happened to the toy age, the Beyblades and all those little types of toys, and they're like, oh, we're way past that. And you tell me Corbin's playing Minecraft and all this stuff, and I'm like, what? He's already at that age? Like, oh yeah, he's Jaden's in high school now. It's like, whoa,
goes by fast.
Yeah, and I started to realize that's what my parents see when they look at me, like, oh, I'm 21 now, and it's like everyone was shocked. They didn't know it was me. It was like, it's crazy to think, but I just, from knowing all the times just growing up, I never knew exactly what you did. I just saw you as this badass singer, just on stage all the time. So you're in this band called Full Circle, and this band plays all over the place. It's very
all over
popular.
Ocean City.
Who's this consist of?
Michelle Schachter, Jeff Davis, Dave Wimbrow, and we have Joe Mama and Barry Williams on the drums, but Joe Mama's going to take more of a first seat as far as the drums go, and Barry's going to be the fill-in drummer when we need someone.
So you're guitar and singer.
Coming into the 2019.
So you're a guitar and singer, and
yes.
Was this a passion that you had musically for as a kid too? Did you play a lot of instrument? Now, how did that influence first start?
Well, when I met your mother in high school, we were both into music, and she had already played guitar and bass. And when we met and started hanging out, we would try to play in my parents' basement. We took an old guitar that that was my dad's mother's, which that guitar right now is probably 80 years old. But we took that and we strung that up, and then she had a bass, and we would just kind of play around, try to play the Go-Go's stuff. And then, just then in the meantime, we had moved down here, and still we're just always hanging around musicians, and, tried to play, or just sitting around a room just jamming, with people, and that was always fun. And then, as we all got older and things got more organized and serious, we were able to get an organized band together and play, and then it just kind of snowballed from there.
Did your music passion really kind of so it started high school, I guess you would say?
Well, I've always been into music.
I know. Well, there's different types of music. genres. Is there a specific one that you kind of sorted out and picked out like at a certain age?
Well, when I was really young, elementary school, I was into John Denver, Heart, the Moody Blues, Elton John, David Bowie, and of course, when I was little, with my sister being 17 years older than me, she actually would take me to concerts all the time. So we grew up 20 minutes from the Capitol Center. So I was actually able to go to all those concerts when I was in elementary school. So
that's crazy.
Yeah, so I was very, I think that had a major influence in things as well, is that my sister was so into music. So, it kind of made me.
Well, my whole family is very musically talented and inclined, and I seem that I kind of steer away from it a little bit, just because I like to be my own person when it comes to things, like, not dress freaky, like, when you see somebody like doing something out in public with like, wearing something that's gonna attract attention, and you're the person that wears like 50 wristbands on their arm. It's like they're
Right.
basically wanting you to ask them about that. But more like, for me, it's just, I always found my outlet to be more towards comedy, like cracking a fart joke or something at the table, and everyone else kind of sitting there like, okay, and then they'll go back to talking about music or something.
I remember your dad when you were younger saying, like, he's just so funny. He's like a little Chris Farley, like, just, he was very famous at the time.
That's why I always tell like everyone in my family, everyone I really meet, that like, you'll know when I'm serious when I say I'm serious, but everything that usually comes out of my mouth just take as a joke. Like, don't take it to heart or anything.
Right.
It's just, I'd rather make someone smile than make someone
Yep.
Frown or something. I mean,
Me
it's
too.
yeah.
If I can make someone laugh every day, then my day is complete.
Exactly. It's like, it's when you go out in public and, ask that person about their day. Like, I'll take that extra minute, like, because you might hear a great story. I've run into some random people on the side of the street that tell me, like, one dude I met, he's from Arizona. He's died 3 times, and he's been brought back to life.
Wow.
And he's like, now I get like weird things where I can see ghosts. And I don't know 100% about the whole paranormal aspect of that, but like, that's a great story. Like, I would have never known if I was a jerk to that guy and then we just didn't get along. I would never have gotten to know this person a little bit more.
Right.
That's what really intrigued me into like starting podcasting, was just like, everyone's got a story.
Yep.
Now, getting off that whole thing, going back on to basically you, which is what this podcast is about. But with music, I just found, like, when you moved to Ocean City, where'd you exactly move from?
Laurel, Maryland City.
Oh, so you weren't even that far.
2.5 hours.
That's not too far, but was that just because you wanted to get a whole new change of scenery? Was like,
Yeah, I think so. I don't know. I just gone to, after I graduated high school, I went to a year of cosmetology school, and I don't know. I've always liked, the beach, even though I wasn't able to come that much. I mean, we would only come like maybe once a year, and then I'd come down for all the senior weeks. I came down for all 4 senior weeks of my high school year, from 9th to 12th grade. So it's not like I spent a lot of time here, but you're with your mom and our friend Lisa went to Salisbury, so they were always coming from Salisbury to the beach, on weekends and everything. And we just met a bunch of people here, and I just liked everybody. I don't know. And then as soon as I graduated beauty school, I got a good job here, and that I, just started working right away, right as soon as I moved down here.
Why didn't you chase after your cosmetology?
I did that for 12 years.
And you didn't, but were you a hairdresser and everything too?
I started out a hairdresser, and then I got into doing nails, which I swore I would never do. But like I say, you never know what's going to what you're going to get into. I was never into doing nails. I only wanted to do hair, and during school in the first 2 years. And then when I got my job, she was opening up another salon, and she said, I don't really have any room for chairs I will eventually, but if you want to do nails, you can do nails. And I said, well, all right. But when I started doing nails, it was more like sculpting and more like art. And she was really into doing nail art. So that kind of got me back into art. And her name is Maggie Whittington, and she had a really nice nail salon called Maggie's Nails, and I started working there, and I built up my clientele so fast that within a year I had a full book, because we had just opened up another salon, and I was just strictly doing nails up there with the hopes of doing hair soon. But I got so busy doing the nails and started liking that even more. I didn't do hair anymore.
So you ended up finding the passion in just doing the
And
nails.
something I had absolutely I was like, nope, I don't want to do nails. I even failed my state board exam doing nails.
Well, you know, what's funny is people find like they're really, really good at something, but they hate doing it. But then they end up getting to love it. Like the one person that might be good at doing, I don't know, crafting or wood making or something, hates doing it, just how long the process takes, but he has a knack for it, a perfect talent for it, but just refuses to do it. I mean, they'll do it all their life. I'd rather be into something 100% and be completely 100% bad at it than go after something that I'm 100% good at and not enjoy it at all.
Right.
Because I think just like finding just the happiness in something is a little bit like kind of what we're all kind of searching for. But at the same time, when you found art through nails, did that help you paint a little bit more? Like, because you can express yourself more freely. But you were also not just like when you're doing these nails and you're expressing your art form on them. That's really like where the passion with painting was, like kind of you were hinting at, like the key to what you really wanted to do, which was painting.
Well, a lot of my clients were business owners in town, so since I could paint a little teeny tiny flower on their fingernail, they would be like, so
can you paint this?
We have a hotel. Do you think you could do like a mural on the wall? And I don't know, I guess. So
might as well try it.
I may as well try it. Yep, and I did. And from there, I just built up started another clientele of.
Now, the process of painting, that takes a long time, especially if it's something very large, like a hotel wall or something, like a giant mural. Are there any really, really famous ones, or not famous ones, but really, really like popular ones that are around town that I might know of that took you a long time to do?
Yeah, like I did Castle in the Sand downstairs in their restaurant a long time ago. Me and Pam Mason do all the painting at Secrets. So the front doors.
All the palm trees and all the stuff.
All
sand stuff that's painted
we've
on
done
the walls.
that.
Then that takes a long time. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't get boring. You don't end up giving up. Because I feel like once I start like sitting down, like I'm going to draw for 5 minutes. 5 minutes later, like I'm just like, I don't want to do this anymore. I get halfway through.
Yeah, then when you're done, you're done. Like it. Art is one of those things like it's hard to, you have to be in the mood as well. Like I can't say like if I went somewhere to report every day from 9 to 5 to paint, I'm not sure, and I was forced to stay in a place for 8 hours and paint, I can't tell you what the end result would be, because you get like artist block. If you're not into it, you're not into it. Like,
yeah, you think of it more of as a hobby or something rather than a job.
Well, it's kind of both. I'm fortunate that with something I love to do,
you get paid
I
for
can,
it.
get paid for it. But I'm also not out to, like, I'm not trying to. It'd be great to get paid a little more for what I do, but at the same time, I'm gonna give my clients 100%, whether they're paying me $10 or $1,000. I mean, I'm still going to put, even if I'm just painting a little sign for Secrets that says open, I'm still going to make that look the best I possibly can, as I would the huge front doors that, for the loading dock that we spent probably 2 weeks, 3 weeks on. Like,
well, you're also thinking that that's your image as well. Like you're not just painting an image that they want you to paint. You're painting an image that's going to reflect back onto you. So anytime someone walks by or sees that, they're going to immediately think, wow, So it's like you want to put 110% effort in. It doesn't matter if you're getting paid anything at all. You want to put 110% effort in it, because that's going to reflect onto you. Mm-hmm. And like one of the most beautiful places I've been is Hawaii, and they have a lot of artists that do like graffiti work, but it's not really graffiti. It's painting like how you do, but it's on these full-scale buildings. But they call it graffiti because it's street art, basically. Which there is a difference between street art and graffiti. But, like, besides all the small gang stuff and the little, like, scribbles, these, I mean, one of the most beautiful ones I've seen was I've mentioned it before, was the fruit punch guy. And in one hand, he was on a giant hotel building the size of the Hilton, like, painted up the whole thing. And he was touching it up, like, whoever made that building was paying them. And he was touching it up, and in one hand he held the world, and it was covered in smog, and in the other hand he held a donut, and it was a portal. And I was like, what? And it's the fruit, not the fruit punch like the Kool-Aid man, the fruit punch guy. Little white kid with the red hair. And he was giant on the side. And of course he looked baked and everything. You know, it's Hawaii. It's going to be probably like that.
Right.
But it was just so inspiring to see that someone could create that image out of their head, pull that out of the back of their skull, basically. It's the same thing that I really appreciate about, like, paintings and stuff. It's one of the main reasons I want to go to Greece, and I want to go to just anywhere like Italy that has very famous artwork. Not just artwork, but statue work, music, any type of things that we kind of take for granted. You don't realize that when you're playing a song, that's a form of art. That is a creative thing, whether you're creating your own or whether you're just covering another song. You are someone's inspiration or spark in the back of their mind where their creativity is. And all of our creativity is different. Everyone's got different outlets of it. Some people are better than others, but everyone's is perfect, I think. So, I mean, I really can't say that someone's is better than somebody else's because we're all our own individuals, which I really appreciate about us being just all different, like kind of like snowflakes. You know, none of us are all exactly 100% the same. Even if you're twins, you're a little bit different. I like that spark where everyone has their own little outlet. Like my buddy who's really good at, you know, fixing cars and doing stuff like that. When it comes to cars, you know, I thought blinker fluid was a thing, you know, when I first started driving and got sent to the store, and the next thing I know, I feel like an idiot. There's no such thing as blinker fluid. But it's like, it's that little joke too, but it's nice to know that I know I'm more informed about other things, and I can chase my creative passions in different ways. That's why I always like how this world kind of comes together. You know, you're going to go out, you're going to experience different things. You're going to meet a wide variety of individuals.
Yeah.
Like you, who, you know, has musically talented. I see, you know, pictures of you on Facebook where you're singing like on stage and everything. I'm like, what's that feeling like? Because for someone like me that's it's probably never going to experience what it's like to be, you know, a guitar player or sing on stage like that. Could you let me in a little bit of that light of that creative passion? Just like, how does it feel getting up on stage and knowing that you're making thousands or whoever's out in the crowd listening, just happy with your inspiration and your creativity? Because whether you're playing a cover song too, you can change it up if you want. You can make it your own style of cover. You don't have to. That's awesome. So explain that to me.
That's always fun. I mean, it's a great feeling, but sometimes it's actually even more fun to play in front of 4 people that are totally into it and listening than it is in front of like hundreds of people. I don't know. It's just it's a great feeling to, you know, play with other people, and you guys are all putting this, there's a feeling you get, I feel like, when you're playing music together and you gel. And I just think your energy transfers over into the people. Like if you guys are all having a good time,
if you're all vibing,
they're gonna feel that and have a good time. And,
well, it's like, if you think about it, you guys are like a kitchen. You guys are all chefs putting in your little ingredients and spices, and then, you know, creating something that the customer basically is taking in.
Yep.
And I think that's cool.
A good analogy. I've never thought of it like that, but you're right. The only way to put out
I'm smart. I think of random things that are dumb.
A good dish is for all the ingredients to be, you know, in there working together, and then you have a good dish.
I just think that's pretty amazing, because like I'm
going to steal that one, just so you know.
Go ahead. I give it to you. But you know, what's funny is when you're performing at Secrets or some club like that, and you're playing, I would just have like the wantingness that after I get off stage, I would be like, yeah, I rocked out or something. Then I'd be like, you know, this painting over here, I also did this painting. You don't feel the need to do that. You don't feel the need to show off.
I'm embarrassed. No, I'm always like, I don't know. I'm always like, I don't know. I definitely am not that type of person where I like to toot my own horn.
You would
or
just walk
whatever.
by your own painting and not mention it to anybody, like if
Yeah,
someone's
like some people
admiring
will
it?
go like, I heard you do all the painting here, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah,
I'd be like, yeah, you want to see? And start showing them around. I did this one. I did this. Oh, I remember when I did this one. Do you feel weird, like, because a lot of painters have to sign? You have to sign the bottom of your painting.
Oh yeah,
Do you
I
feel
always
weird
get.
when you put
I
your name
always
up there?
have. It's just one of those things. After I do a painting or whatever, sometimes I just forget to sign things, and I have had people go, look, you have to sign this. Can you stop? Here's a Sharpie. I've had someone bring something that I've made to a gig with a Sharpie and have had me sign it.
Just because you
So
forgot
this
to
year,
sign it?
I just forget. Yeah, I'm just busy getting it out or whatever, and I won't sign something. So I've had people do that. I've had to stop by other people's houses and just add my initials or whatever. And it's great because, I'm just like, oh, you know where it came from. It's okay. They're like, no, I really
They
want your
want it to be
signature on there.
authentic. They're like, I want
So
it
this
on
year
there.
I was really good about, putting my little signature, my little initial at the bottom of things. And I think people just really appreciate it more.
Now going back to the vibe about like how concerts are, when you were going to all these concerts as a kid, it's really different seeing a concert than I guess listening to a CD or a song that's kind of been studio performed. Not just with the fact but what I'm saying about how you can put your own style into it. Like I've been to a couple like reggae concerts, and the songs that that you hear when you're listening to a CD is completely different how they want to play it. They had it was this band Pepper, a local band from Hawaii, and they were playing this one song that I knew on their CD, and they just stopped in the middle of the song. I was like, what? And they started talking to me for like 10 minutes, like the whole crowd, talking to everybody for like 10 minutes. And they go back to the song like 10 minutes later. Like, I totally forgot they were playing the song, but they picked up right where they left off exactly and just started going, and everyone's like freaking out. I'm like, that's so cool how you can get, like, bring everyone in. Because, I mean, just like if it's like a kitchen or if it's like, you're bringing them into a family type thing. You're making them a part of you. You want them to hear your.
You're all there for the
creative
same
aspect.
purpose.
Exactly. Everyone's listening there, ready to hear some good music.
Yeah.
And just with the talents that you have with creativity, I definitely think you're one of the few people like that I know of that are very, very creatively talented. I mean, there's a lot of people that are, good like at one thing, painting, but you're good at like the whole mix, like. Someone just poured all the right skills in the pot, and not to, toot your horn or anything, but like when it comes to just painting, I mean, that's a long, tedious process, just like learning music is. And the patience you must have, I mean, that had to develop over the years. That wasn't just something you had at my age, right? I mean,
Right. No, I've made a lot of mistakes.
I mean, we've
Like a lot of mistakes that I've learned.
we've all made mistakes, but like when it comes to like, I can't like I don't know what it is about my energy levels. It's really hard for me to sit if I'm not talking or something's not happening. Like not like if I'm not tapping something, if I'm not doing something like that. But the fact that you can sit down and then paint and just like kind of will yourself through it, but not just will yourself, you enjoy it.
Yeah, I enjoy it. I get in the zone.
It's like, yeah, I remember you painted your kids like bedrooms and stuff when they were really little, like sea turtles, anything they wanted. I mean, is there a different type of like, depending on what you're painting, obviously you're going to have a different vibe too, but is there anything you incline music with in it? Like, you say you have to get in a zone. So when you're getting into a zone, do you ever feel like music helps kind of ensue that really?
Yeah, like we usually listen to music when we're painting, and sometimes not. It depends, but yeah, I think it helps. I think
like if you're playing a metal song, I'm not saying you listen to metal, but if you're playing something with like a hard beat or hard rock to it, do you find yourself that might affect like if you're trying to create a nice peaceful shore or something, or do you find that just it doesn't matter?
No, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
See,
if I set myself like, if I'm like, I want to get ready to wind down and go to sleep, I find like reggae music helps soothe me a little bit more than like if I'm listening to like heavy metal, like Avenged Sevenfold or something, or listening to some rap. Like I'm sitting there trying to sleep, and next thing you know, someone's talking about, you know, shooting somebody. I'm like, all right, well, not sleeping anymore. I feel like more like if I'm picturing myself on like a sandy shore, have a nice rainforest going off in the background, it helps me drift off a little easier.
Yeah.
But like if I set myself in like a reading mode, I can listen to a hardcore rock song for some reason. It just gets me pumped. But that's what I love about, like, when I talk about creative passions and sparks. Like, I just love how someone can pull that out of the back of their head and, you know, put that onto something. Now, what I want to ask you is, when you, some people call it an epiphany, some people call it, I call it a transcendental moment. I try and ask everybody this. Basically, it's a moment when you see something really beautiful. It can be like a sunset or a sunrise where you're like, this is what everything's about. Do you have a moment like that in your life? I know that's a very hard question to ask, but I mean, just thinking back, like there was one specific moment, and a lot of people sometimes say, you know, when I first saw my son, or first, you don't have to say that. What I'm saying is, like, if you are ever like, you're 20 years old, you can go back as far as you want and be like, I'm going, like, you're on top of a mountain basically. You know, like when you see people climb the mountains and they see that one thing, it's like, yeah, this is why I did all that painstaking effort. Do you ever have a moment like that where you can think back at any bad time you're having and you can be like, I remember that, and that's why I'm going to keep pushing forward, because there's moments like that in life.
I can't think of one right off the top of my head, but I don't know. That's a good question. That's a loaded question.
For sure.
Like,
yeah,
I can't.
It's probably one of my
maybe
best
I haven't.
ones
Maybe
in
I
the
haven't
arsenal.
had that yet. Maybe I haven't. You know,
I
had that moment yet.
I think it's beautiful. I think everyone's had one, but it's really hard to tell if, like, when it's happening.
Yeah.
But there's, like, when it's happening, you don't want to do anything. I mean, mine's a really dumb one. I remember just, like, you know, like a cold Sunday. Like, one of my favorite poems by Robert Frost, Those Winter Sundays. I don't know if you ever heard of it, but he talks about, like, how, like, it's that feeling you get that we've all experienced when you wake up in the morning on a cold winter day and your window has frost crackling, like cracks on it, and you don't want to move out of your bed. You just, lights are off. It's just like kind of cold vibe in the room, and you just want to curl under the blanket and not move at all. We've all experienced that, and we know what it's like on a cold winter Sunday, basically. And it just, when I can read that poem and it registers in my mind, like, that feeling, and I feel it on my skin. I can feel it, like, when hearing that, and it brings such a smile on my face, because it brings me back to a certain moment. Just like when you're like, they say sense, or your sense of smell is linked to like a certain memory, and being able to smell something, like, I remember that. I believe that is awesome, that someone's using a certain type of their creativity, like if they're cooking something, their creative style is bringing you to a point where you're either at like a moment of clarity, or you're at a moment of just nostalgia where you can just remember something. It's like a favorite food or something, or a favorite song.
Yeah.
That's all creativity.
Yeah, music does that with me, definitely.
Yeah, it's like, okay, then this is a good question. Do you ever have a song that comes on that brings back the past, like 100%, like you're back in, like, you're 20 years old in your car?
Yeah, the only reason I even can answer this right now is where I've been working lately. They have Sirius radio on, and we've been listening to Lithium, the 90s channel. And all these songs that I haven't heard in years, I love listening to it, because it brings me back to the 90s. And it just, listening to certain songs, I'm like, oh my gosh, I totally forgot about this song. And then it'll make me totally like remember something that I probably wouldn't have remembered.
Start scrolling
Like, oh
through
my
your
gosh, I
memories.
remember now. This reminds me of, you know, having our store downtown misprint and printing T-shirts at 2 a.m. to hurry up and get the order out by 8. I remember we were listening to this CD or whatever. So it's been pretty cool listening to that. It's been bringing back a lot of memories lately.
There are good parts about that and bad parts about that. The bad parts are, like, I remember when I was in, like, 3rd grade getting ready to go to school, and we had this was back before everyone had a laptop or a phone. So it was like we had the one computer in the house that was like the family computer, and I'd be playing Sean Kingston, Beautiful Girls, like that one song, and it's really annoying. And throughout the whole house, or some, like, I guess the doorbell, I forgot who it's by. The White Stripes, The Doorbell.
I don't know.
I'm thinking about my doorbell when you gonna ring it. That song, like something so stupid that like it's like, why are you listening to that at like right before school every morning, or walking with the Black Eyed Peas, Pump It Louder on the little CD track in my headphones? And it's like, I remember a song like that, and I just get flushed red in the face, just get super embarrassed. Like, it's cool that that can happen, and it's there are times I'm like, oh my god, I was such an idiot. But
right,
it's like,
what was I thinking?
yeah, exactly. What was I doing listening to that song thinking it was all that? But as a artist, not just a painter, but a music, like, do you find that the music nowadays is a little bit more toned down than it was back in the day? Do you find that you are more attracted to the older style of music just because you knew what kind of better music, in my opinion, was?
I am definitely more of a fan of bands that play their own instruments as opposed to
More studio versions.
studio versions and people using tracks and loops and everything. But with Jaden, my son, he's into all that. He's into both. But with him being into a lot of the computer style music, I see equally how hard that is as well.
Yeah.
And that's another talent on its own. So you can't really discredit these kids nowadays for listening to that kind of music or even making that kind of music, because it's just as hard, I think, as as someone playing, a guitar or a real instrument, keyboards or whatever, just doing. I don't know. I just think they both are very hard and take a lot of time and a lot of passion. I just
appreciate the more sitting down and like kind of hearing the notes on the instruments, the more classic way, I guess you would say, like the more classic way of creating a song process, rather than the studio version where, like someone's sitting on a computer just figuring out how to put all these beats and blend and all this stuff. Even though I see the difficult in that too, but I'm more dumbed down. Like when it comes into, like, I go to my buddy's house and he has his Amazon Alexa out in the kitchen, talks to you immediately. He can say lights on. I need to go flip the switch to turn the light on. I can't.
I have an Alexa, however, it's still in the box.
He bought me an Alexa. I was like, no. He actually bought me a 55-inch TV for my birthday.
Oh, wow. And that was nice.
Yeah. I probably have to knock down this wall just so I can sit in here and watch it, or I'm going to go blind eventually. I'm sitting back, like, trying to play games, and it's difficult.
Right.
But, like, just when when it comes to technology, I believe we're moving so fast, but it's like I want to kind of slow down and keep some of the stuff basic. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, I believe that you should physically have to get up and turn the light switch on. That's just going to create lazy people. But when it comes to music, too, I believe, like, a lot of the music that's just getting pumped out into the world that the new generation is kind of hooking onto, it's not that it's bad. It's just that it's not, I don't see it as being pure.
Yeah. No, that's very true. Like you can just download different drum tracks and you can put a whole song together without doing a thing and just mixing it, putting it on YouTube, throwing it on Spotify.
And you can do it all by yourself.
You think you're going to be famous one day. A lot of these kids think.
I mean, it's cool you can do it all by yourself, but at the same time, it's like, where's that creative process where you had to get a bunch of friends together? Everyone had to go coordinate. I hear stories like podcasts and stuff with old musical artists, like Ted Nugent was talking about how him and his friends would get on their bikes. They'd all have to meet up, and they would go over to their drummer's house, wake him up at like 12 because he was drinking the night before, and something like that, and like drag him out of bed and bring him down to the garage or the basement, and they all had to sit down and try and write a song and just get in that creative mindset. Like, I'm gonna lock the door, nobody's gonna leave until this happens.
Right.
You shut the curtains. You make sure you sit down and make sure something gets done. I believe that's what forms really relationships, like long-lasting ones too.
Yeah.
And I believe a lot of people, like artists nowadays, are missing out on that. When you see a lot of solo artists, is what's the mainstream now. You don't see a whole lot of bands really anymore.
Well, and
that haven't been around for a while, I should say.
Yeah, but there's a lot of bands too that are put together, like by agents.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of
dumb too, because you want the friendship in the band. Because if you have a bunch of agents getting a band together, they could play music really, really well together, but sometimes you're not going to see the vibe or connection you would see with a band that plays crappy music and it has the best 100% friend vibe where they're just like, we're doing this for us. We're not doing it for anybody.
I tell you, one thing I do hear on this subject, one thing I do hear quite often is, there are a lot of agency bands that play up and down the East Coast. That's what they do all the time. They're booked and they play a certain set list. They all have their songs that they learn. They do them in certain orders. They go from one song to the next, and they make a good living at it. They, like I said, they travel, they play constantly. But one thing I hear is people will say to us, like you can tell you guys are friends and you rehearse and you guys have a relationship. Like a lot of the bands that play here, you don't see that, and they see the bands all the time, so they can tell that there is a difference. It's kind of cool to hear. Like
when you go and you see a band, like I believe the long lasting like legend bands, like when it comes to Kiss or someone that's been around forever, and it's like they keep making music and they keep still playing. I'm like, they all want to do that. You know what I mean? Even though like there's been might be fights in the band or something like that. Like same thing with Red Hot Chili Peppers, but when you see them on stage, it's like all their cares and all their troubles that before that even happened, they just go away.
Right.
And I believe that's what really makes a band, because the audience is going to see that.
You're right, and it should be like that.
When an audience comes out and sees your guys' band, they don't want to see, if you guys had a fight before and you bring that on stage.
Right.
They're going to notice that.
You're
They're going to
exactly
see the
right.
tension in there. Either you're not going to be looking at someone while you're playing, because usually when you're on stage, either the people are looking at their instruments and just getting so involved into it, and you're like, okay, that he's obviously into the moment right now. But at the same time, sometimes you'll look at your band member and you'll just like kind of connect with them, not like have a stare contest, but like at the same time you're like, we're synced right now, like we're right on there. Like when you see Chad Smith play drums and he's playing with Flea, he's watching Flea and hitting his like notes like same time as Flea, connected with them. They're in a vibe. You can tell there's that vibe on the stage. Like no one can interact with them. But when everyone else sees it, it's like you're bringing everyone in on that.
And like I said, that's what I mean. Like there's a certain feeling you get when you guys are all in sync together playing that music. It sounds weird. It's magical.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And when it comes to like, even if a song is bad, like if a band can do that and create, like they can get joy out of it and they can bring like that kind of vibe onto the crowd, I appreciate that. I'd rather go pay $1,000 to go see a crappy band play that's having a really fun time, making me have fun.
Yep.
Just with their whole music experience, than go see a band that's so studioed out and just none of the guys care about each other.
Yeah, you're right.
All this drama. Yeah. It's like, okay, but they're not going to be as interactive to you as an audience. They're just going to be like, I need to play and get done with this person so I can go.
I think too, it's more about it's an experience, not you don't want to hear perfection.
Like, yeah, most concerts either start with a really, really like the weather was crap, the drive was terrible, but and then there's all these little side things that happens. Oh, we got a flat tire, but that's part of the story. That's part of the experience. You're gonna tell this back later, and you're gonna be like, remember that one time we were going to that concert, we got a flat tire.
I know, that's what I know.
It's like that's how basically every single concert story starts. Like. And that's like the whole experience. You want to get in the car with a bunch of your friends and just travel down to go see a band. You don't care where.
That's what I always say. Like we're creating memories, and it's an experience. This is going to be a funny story to tell. Remember that time?
Exactly. It's always a drag down too. When like one of your friends is like, when are we going to be back? I need to know because I have this. It's like we don't plan anything because like we don't know what's going to happen. We're going 3 states over. We got this small car. It's about to break down when I drive it down the street. So it's like we don't know what's going to happen if we have to go get gas or whatever. It's going to, we might have to hitchhike the next couple of states. But it's like that whole story and experience, even though you want to be planned for every possible thing that could happen, it's awesome when sometimes that little thing that even might be hell that you're going through at the time happens, because it's like it creates the story.
Those are the things you remember. Like that's what's funny. And then you laugh about them later. You might not laugh about them when they're happening. But
you'll be telling the stories to your kids. Like, there's this one time I only went to New York from, Florida with only $20 in my pocket. I got about a state over before I ran out of gas. And you're like, all right, what was the whole plan? He goes, I just did it. It's like, that's something. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And that's types of stuff you use that fuels your creative passions too. Like when you're painting or something, you're gonna think of that moment where you're like, where you're feeling like you're going kind of through the muck, and you're kind of dragged down. And you're like, oh, I don't feel like doing this anymore. And then you just remember that just that random pop that goes right in your head. It could be a certain smell that triggered it off, or something, or a certain song. And it's just like, I remember when I was, and then you just start going again. We all need those little moments through life. We all have them, but we all don't recognize them. We all just don't think about them all the time. And I believe, like, if you're having a hard time at work, if you're having a hard time at school, if you're having a hard time just in life in general, you're feeling down, just turn on a song you used to listen to, cook something you used to cook, watch something you used to watch. I love
step away from something for a while.
Yeah, and just take a deep breath. Sometimes just stepping outside and smelling the rain in the morning, or drinking a coffee, will bring you back to a certain point where you're just like, yeah, I remember life's not too bad. I can keep pushing through. And I think a lot of people need to hear that and definitely get that into their head. And once they kind of recognize that, I'm glad I recognized at the age of 20 or 21. Yeah, I'm going to throw that in there. I'm an adult now. It's still taboo walking through
No, you're not.
It's taboo walking through the grocery store because
you're still baby Robbie.
I went to the wine rack the other day, and I told my mom, I was like, they make coffee, beer, and she goes, what are you doing at the beer store? And I'm like, well, I went in here to go to the bathroom, but I'm allowed to be in here. I just kind of came out of the bathroom and was like, I've never actually looked at what's up here. $10 for a 4-pack. Yeah, I'm not drinking it. I'm not going to drink, sorry. That's not happening. Money's a little bit too much there.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm a beer snob, so I'd much rather pay $10 for a 4-pack than $6 for a 6-pack of crappy beer.
The ridiculous price. I don't really know any good beers. I mean, I'd like to try and drink one or so on like a night, like a podcast night, like have a couple friends. But that's why all my friends are broke. I don't have any money for anything. It's like, well, what do you buy? Beer. But also, like, that's something that helps boost, I think, music and creative passions too. Because you get a bunch of friends drunk or doing whatever. That also sometimes can spark your creative image too. Now, I don't like to think of it in that way. I think you should probably be sober when you're doing a lot of stuff. But you can't tell me that playing music and not having a beer is different than when you play music and have a beer. Well, it kind of lets you loose a little bit.
Yeah. Like we always have, we always start out with a drink, but I can't. I have to concentrate on what I'm doing too much. I really cannot get drunk while I'm playing. I can't.
You got to give respect to the people that can get drunk and play.
Yeah, I don't know how they do it, but I'm not that person. But
the reason I didn't like playing music so much is I felt like I was so I had to keep track of so much. Like, okay, my finger needs to be here, my finger needs to be there.
Exactly.
I need to be hitting this note at the same time. This hand needs to be moving. At the same time, I need to be singing. At the same time, I need to remember this lyric. It was a lot for my mind to try and comprehend at once, and at the same time, I had this oh my God, everyone is watching me right now. And it's like when that feeling.
But then if you're drunk, you don't care.
Exactly. You're like, you could be farting in the mic and you wouldn't even
there are some times where we're like, oh my gosh, like I've got a buzz. I'm telling you guys right now, I've got a buzz. It's like, I can't promise it. And it is fun, every once in a while, but we definitely don't do that a lot. And
oh yeah, fear and anxiety is awesome.
We definitely it's funny if we'll play a new bar, they'll be like, all right, now you guys have $100 bar tab. We're like, oh gosh, that's so funny. Cause we won't come anywhere. We'll be there at the end of the night. Well, you guys have $80 more to spend. We're like, no, that's all right.
Yeah, we're fine.
Yeah. None of us have gotten trashed.
Do you find that, that's, like I said, that's always what creates memories. You can't tell me you're not sitting in bed late at night and then, not having, you're having trouble sleeping because you're just going through your memories of just life in general. That's why I think it's my fascination just with elderly people when they're just sitting around and kind of looking out the window. How do you enjoying that? Why don't you want to go out and do something? Because he's in memory lane right now. He's enjoying everything. And I'm not saying you're elderly. I'm just saying you've had more experience than I've had through life. Just laying in bed some nights, I think about when I was a kid and, scootering or skateboarding through the town. And I'm just like, those things. And that's a lot where my creativity comes from, too. Because sometimes I'll draw something and I'll realize that I saw that at one point in my life. If it's a certain image or a dream, sometimes it's hard. Sometimes your memories are in your dreams. when you have a certain dream, that's your creativity running wild with anything you've ever seen in your life. You know, like when you see monsters in movies, that's that image, like you're like, how did that person think of that creative thing? That's because their brain is physically taking or mental or whatever, taking images that they've seen from multiple people's faces in their life that you don't even think about. You don't know their names to them, but they're taking random bits and pieces and forming it into one. It's not like your brain randomly created that. That's something you saw, but it's your brain taking multiple different images. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's like when you see that and you're like, that's how a werewolf was created. It wasn't someone like, oh, this is what a werewolf looks like. No, they took a bunch of different things, whether it was animals, and mixed them with humans, and like in their mind, just subliminally, and then bam, it came all together in this image, and they're like, oh, this is what this looks like, and that's what happened. That's amazing. And no one understands, like, we're trying to find out so much stuff about the next technology, iPhone or space. I think we need to look more at the brain, just because being creative, I mean, the 100% of everything, you could think of something right now that we probably never would have thought of living with 100 years ago or for the past 100 years. Like a phone. Everybody, before phones were even a thing, everyone communicated letters and all that stuff. Nobody thought of the phone, but people were surviving.
Right. Yep.
And then you're like, what happens if this gets created? How did we ever live without that?
Right.
It's like, that's, in my mind, is just amazing about humankind in general, just the fact that we can push forward and create that type of stuff. I'm sorry, I got on.
Yeah, no, that's all right. It was funny. We were watching a movie the other, I don't even remember what movie it was, but they pulled out this high-tech flip phone and started using it, and we were just like, oh my, look, they have flip phones in this movie. You know.
And you got to think, when that movie probably came out, that was like, oh, that's the phone of the day.
You know what, a great movie like that I watched kind of recently, which is one of my favorite movies, is Enemy of the State with Will Smith. I love that movie, and to watch that movie now and when it came out 20 years ago, it's really interesting, the technology they had. When they filmed that movie, that technology was something we were like, God, that can't happen. That would never happen. But, you know, it was happening, and now that's our life, you know.
I've watched some Steven Seagal movie where he pulled out this giant phone that was like the size of a toaster, and he pulls the long cord out and sticks it up to his head. And in my head, I picture my grandpa being like, I remember when that phone was the newest thing and everything like that. And then I'm looking at it, I'm like, don't put that up to your head.
Yeah.
Don't do that. You're gonna get like radiation.
It's like a microwave.
Poison. Yeah, exactly. You're cooking your brain. But that's what I think is like a fascination too about like when it comes. I love how creative people are. I just can't get over the fact, like, I've been thinking about a lot of it lately. That's mostly why I like fueled this topic here. Was just like, especially having like a creative person like you on the podcast, when it comes to, you know, my creativeness comes to, I've started to realize, comes with talking to people. I always had a passion for talking and always wanting us to talk. I was always talking constantly. You remember me as a little kid.
Yeah, I remember you as a toddler. Yeah.
And it's like a lot of times I'm walking around in public, I'm completely different now. Like when I got older, I became more introvert, where I was like not really wanting to go out and talk to anybody anymore. I was kind of quiet just because I was afraid. Like, I've been told I was annoying so many times. But now when I talk to people, I just let them know straight up, hey, if I start talking a whole bunch, tell me to shut up. I'm not going to be offended by it. I have ADHD, and it's, you know, if you let me go on, I'm going to go on. Like, I'm going to fuel whatever conversation.
Right.
And it works especially well because one of my best friends back in the day was a shy kid around everybody else, but not around me. So when it was me and him, we'd be talking back and forth, going on and on and on. And then when we were in public, I had to fuel every single conversation. Like, hey,
right.
You know, like, this is what's going on. Like, someone asked him something, I'd have to answer for him because he would just sit there with his head down. I'm like, oh, Lord. Like, my dad would always go, is he all right? I'm like, yeah, he's fine. He's just shy.
Yeah, he's just quiet, yeah.
But he was more talented than I am when it came to art and stuff. I always found when you see those kids in class that are drawing and really good at drawing, and they just sit in the corner, all they want to do is draw all day in class, and you're like, that guy's weird. That guy's not weird. That guy's smart. That guy is way too smart for us. He's smarter than us, basically. You know?
Right.
Like an Elon Musk, when you hear him in an interview, him going off on something, you're like, he's not very good at interviews. Most people that are very, very smart are not good at interviews. I only know a few people. Neil deGrasse Tyson, the guy that makes Cosmos, that TV show about space and stuff, he isn't a good interviewer for how smart he is, but he knows so much. But it's like when some people are book smart or very knowledgeable or very creative, and they either block themselves off from people completely, like Da Vinci, that guy. He blocked himself off from a lot of people and just painted and created these works of art, like the flying machine, all this type of stuff. And a lot of people have a conspiracy theory that he's an alien, and because he had all these images that he created the first tank. It was a tank that had cannons, like it was a slit in the middle, and it had cannons lined all the way around, so it could shoot in every direction all at once.
Oh, wow.
So it can just spin like that, was on gyros and everything. And he had these drawings of them, and he had a little bit of prototypes too. But it's like when he comes to the flying machine, he was the first one that was like, he was on the trail of like just this massive creative spark, which we ended up taking bits and pieces of today, like creating airplanes and the tanks we have today. And for him, it was probably very difficult to walk around and try and talk to people that didn't have that influence like him, that were just kind of wandering through life. It's like when I tell people, if you have a passion, you want to chase after that passion. You want to take every step, every possible goal into that passion.
Right. And don't be afraid to do it.
Yeah. I mean, my whole thing was I didn't want to get on stage. I wanted to be an actor. I wanted to be a comedian. I wanted to be all these things.
You might be that.
Because I wanted to be super famous. I just wanted to leave a mark. That's all I want in this life. That's all I want, is to leave a mark. I want someone to look at me and be like, yeah, that's Robbie. He did this, he did that. I just don't want to be remembered. But now I'm starting to get older, and I'm starting to realize I want to be remembered as being a good person overall in general. I don't want to, I want to be someone to be like, yeah, if I can leave a smile or say something stupid in the beginning of the day, you'll be like, what? And then like later you'll be driving your car. I've had people at work tell me, dude, I was driving my car, and that thing you said earlier in the day that I made fun of you for, it popped in my head. I just started laughing to myself. I'm like, I'm glad I could do that for you.
Yeah. I'm like that too.
There's those moments.
I think everyone should, I don't know, I think everyone likes to make people laugh or whatever, but.
And I'm just like, when you see all these people that criticize and, an artist or something like that, I'm like, people criticize Da Vinci, people criticize Picasso, people criticize Van Gogh for chopping his ear off and all that type of stuff. These people were insane, but at the same time, they are also insanely smart in their own capable way. Mm-hmm. And like, did you ever, like, when you see a painting like that, or like a Van Gogh or something like that, do you ever feel like you could do that one day? Like your art's going to be left behind like that?
Gosh, I don't know. It's
because I think that's what Da Vinci, like when he created the Mona Lisa, I don't think he was thinking that we're all gonna look at it the way it does now, like in museums and everything. Yeah. So I feel like one day your art's still gonna be on display somewhere. Like someone's like 1,000 years from now, or in like
someone will still have a little flower pot I painted.
Like, this is work of Kathy Denk.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they might. That would be great.
I wish that would be cool if we could know that could happen.
Yeah. Well, then I don't know. I think if you don't want to know what's going to happen, but yeah.
You're way too modest when it comes to your artwork, I'm telling you.
No, I don't really feel like I never really, I always look at my stuff, and a lot of times I'm like, oh God, I can't look at that anymore. That looks terrible. Why did I paint that like that? Oh my God, what was I thinking that day?
You're constantly criticizing yourself. But you see,
I'm my worst critic.
That's with all really good artists. They're always constantly seeing improvements. It's like the same time when you're playing music and you play and hear a recording of your playing, when you messed up. Someone else that's listening, that's a fan or an audience member,
might not
they
know.
don't know.
Right.
But you're like, if you're listening to a recording, like I remember the one time I played, I could hear every single part I messed up. Because in my mind, I knew I messed up. But the other people in the band didn't know.
Right.
Sometimes they might have caught it, but when a regular person's hearing it, they're just like, oh, that was so good. You're like, you didn't hear this when I messed up. I didn't even hear it. That's with all creative people. You're always constantly criticizing yourself because you are really the only one that know you messed up.
It's just like when people post videos online, I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't even know if I want to hear it. And then when I hear it and it comes up to my part, I'll like hold my ears like, oh God, I don't want to hear this. But then sometimes it's good because, then I think, oh gosh, I can't sing like that. I can't do that anymore. I should sing it differently. So it kind of works both ways. I take it as,
Constructive criticism.
Constructive criticism, definitely. And then, just improve it the next time. I'm going to sing that 200 more times in in the next few years. I'll hopefully nail it the next time or whatever.
What you just said was a big part of what probably a lot of musicians fail at, is just because when they hear that and they're like, oh, I did fine. Yeah, who cares? It's just a little mess up. They don't want to improve themselves. I believe you always have to strive better. I believe that's what kept Da Vinci motivated.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep going back to Da Vinci.
And with art too, sometimes it's just you have to put the brush down. You know what I mean? At some point, you have to. Everything's abandoned. It's never completed. I could always look at a painting and do more. Out of everything I've ever done, I just have to put it down because it's time to just leave it alone. It's fine.
How do you think the people that created those Greek sculptures and everything like that felt? They create the body of the person, then it comes to the arms, and I'm not good at doing arms, and just walks away, and that's why you see all the statues without all the arms and everything. But it's that's
me with hands and feet. Like, don't make me draw someone's hands and feet.
Oh God,
please
come out like bananas or something. It's like, it's difficult, but I believe that if you keep kind of pursuing that and keep trying to inspire, keep that kind of flame lit. You know what I mean? Like, even if you have to walk away for a minute and go search for firewood, you got to come back and put some more on the fire.
Yep, that's true.
And I believe everyone should kind of search through that a little bit, especially when it comes to just life in general. If you got a passion, don't give up on it, even if you need to take a break because it's dragging on a little bit.
Yeah.
Definitely go after it, and I appreciate
and be prepared to fail constantly. It doesn't mean that you did bad. You have to keep trying.
Practice. What is it? Practice doesn't make perfect; it makes permanent.
Well, I don't know. I've never heard that one either.
You never heard that one? Or what is it? Do or do not. There is no try. We'll use that one because that one's Yoda. So that one's very important. Those are all the motivational posters I look on Amazon for.
I like those. I like those little sayings. Yeah, they mean a lot. It has a lot of meaning in a little bit of words. And
well, I appreciate you taking the time out of your day today to do the podcast. I know you said 1:30, so I'm gonna
1:30ish. I'll
cut you off a little bit, but
on to the next.
On to the next task
thing
at hand. You got buildings to paint and music to write.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you doing the podcast, Aunt Kathy.
Thanks for having me, baby Robbie.
Thank you for the badass interview, and hopefully we'll have you on again soon.
All right.